AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Goodwood, Men's Sexual Wellness. I'm Matt.
Love you, Matt.
Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Yusuf. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right. We're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Mickey Loomis and Kellen both met with reporters here on Wednesday in their season recap press conference, but also this comes at a time bookended where Gail Benson was up in New York, sort of at a summit with the NFL and the NBA. And Jeff Duncan's good enough to join us, talk a little bit about both. Man, we always appreciate it. How are you?
Matt, I'm doing good, buddy. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, man. It's always our pleasure. Let's maybe start, if we could, with today, and then we'll look into the future. Maybe biggest takeaway from what Kellen Moore and Mickey Loomis had to say today?
Well, I think we all knew this by watching with our own eyes, but the commitment, I think, to Tyler Shough as the franchise quarterback going forward, I don't think it surprised anybody, but it was interesting to hear it from both men today. It was pretty clear. This is the guy they're going to build around, and I think everyone in the organization just has unbridled enthusiasm about what he's been able to do. I think, Matt, he's even exceeded their expectations on him, and this is a guy that they were way higher on than I think a lot of teams in the league. They had a first-round grade on him. They had him graded higher than Jackson Dart, I think probably right behind Cam Ward, and I think he's played even better than expected.
I don't know that there's any doubt about that. It's been incredible to watch. Jeff, I mean, you've covered the Saints for 25 years. Can you sort of gauge how you feel or what the temperature is around the organization, fan base, everything going into this offseason, especially off a 6-win season, but as opposed to maybe others? Is there a comp where you might look at the level of optimism, if I'm not asking too much of a leading question there?
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, it's night and day difference from where the organization was a year ago, and everyone had their crosshairs on Mickey Loomis and Gail Benson. That seems to have died down from the fan base. Look, I think that there's still a long way to go. I think the one caution I would have for people, and Mickey Loomis alluded to this today, is, look, that winning streak was nice at the end of the year, but it came against the Jets and the Titans of the world. And when this team did play, now Spencer Rattler was the quarterback, but when they did play the elite teams in the league, the Seahawks, the Bears, the Patriots, they weren't competitive. So they've got a long way to go. The roster has a lot of work to do to be competitive, but they are in a very winnable division. And when you have a quarterback on a second-round rookie contract, Matt, that makes life so much easier when you're rebuilding. And I think that's the real source of optimism.
The other big thing, and Jeff Duncan's with us, NOLA.com, he's on Twitter at @JeffDuncan_, is what happens to some of these veterans, right? I mean, Cam, Taysom, DeMario. Any insight or best guess as to maybe what the organization does with these guys, provided they want to continue?
Yeah, look, I think that's the biggest question of the offseason is how many guys come back? Do any of them decide to leave? Does, say, Taysom Hill, who sounded to me like a guy that is pondering retirement, just reading between the lines, the way he talks, having the whole family there, the physical, abuse that he's taken at the position. I would not be surprised if he decides to hang up his cleats. But I think the rest of them are completely up in the air, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to what the contract is, what players like DeMario Davis and Cam Jordan are willing to come back to play for, because they certainly have earned, with their production, another year somewhere in the league. And I don't think I would have said that, Matt, a year ago. I thought this would be their last year, but they both played at a very high level, and I think are going to command a decent contract in the marketplace if it isn't here in New Orleans.
Jeff, what specifically would you say about Kellen Moore after year one, considering, I mean, let's see, you've covered Hazlitt and I guess the end of Ditka, Hazlitt, Payton, and Dennis Allen, now Kellen Moore, compared maybe to other year ones, or what the feeling is just as him as a head coach coming off of year one?
Yeah, look, he had way harder circumstances probably than anyone but Sean Payton, I think. And he exceeded my expectations. I picked the team to have 4 wins, and it looked like that was going to be optimistic at midseason. And I think the quarterback changed everything. And you have to give him credit. He was very bullish on Tyler Shough. And I think his development and coaching of Tyler Shough brought him around to where he was at. So he gets a lot of credit from me for holding this thing together. It could have easily gone south. We've seen some teams around the league pack it in. That never happened here, Matt, and that's a credit to the staff. It's a credit to the leaders in the locker room. I was really starting to question Kellen Moore midseason, but I have to say, I mean, he surprised me. And I think the league is kind of going to this. You know, we're all used to the Sean Paytons of the world. There's only so many guys like that. There are more guys like Dave Canales and Matt LaFleur and Mike McDaniel. That's kind of the way the league has gone with the head coaches, and I think Kellen Moore certainly earned a lot of respect this year, not only from the fans, but also from players in that locker room.
Jeff Duncan's with us, not just about, obviously, Loomis and Kellen Moore meeting with reporters, also, I guess, a summit is what we would call it. It's how you alluded to it on Twitter X with Gail Benson and Jeff Landry, and going up to New York City. And a few things on the docket. I guess top of the list would be the 2031 Super Bowl. Can you fill us in, Jeff, on the goings-on there?
Well, that was big because the Saints and the city of New Orleans, the host committee that bids on these Super Bowls, really, we missed the deadline. I say we, the city of New Orleans, to bid on the game because they didn't have a long-term contract extension with the state of Louisiana at the time. The team didn't. So obviously you can't have a Super Bowl in a city that you don't know if they're actually going to have an NFL team in that city. So that had to get done before the city was going to be allowed to bid on the 2031 game. And the reason that year is targeted, Matt, you know this well, New Orleans has a very complicated spring schedule with Mardi Gras. The calendar gets very complicated as far as trying to get big events in here. There's a lot of major conventions at that time of year. And 2031 is really the only year that New Orleans could fit in a Super Bowl between now and 2038. And the locals have let the NFL know that. The NFL is very much aware of that. Would love to be able to bring the game back here, but they had to get that contract done. Once they did now, I think the NFL's extended an olive branch to Gail Benson and Jeff Landry and invited them to bid again. And I fully expect that game to be here in 2031. I don't think the NFL would have taken the step to allow them to bid if they weren't going to bring that game here. There's
always the concern, Jeff, of cities that build new stadiums being in line for a Super Bowl. So I can't help but think of Chicago or what's going to happen in Kansas City. Does any of that potentially, there might be others I'm not thinking of right now, Nashville, right? Are there any of those that could potentially stand in the way of New Orleans landing the Super Bowl in 2031?
I don't think so, because I think a lot of these stadium projects are still trying to get off the ground. They're still trying to find funding. And I think most of them, while there's a lot of them who would love to be finished by 2031, I think that's a little ambitious. And the way that the bidding system works now, remember in the old days, Matt, they used to have cities bid against each other. Yeah. And we famously in New Orleans lost to Atlanta in 2018. Yep. That was the tricentennial in New Orleans. Everybody thought it was a shoe-in for New Orleans. Those days are over. Once you're invited to bid, it's kind of a one-horse race. And I really don't think the league would have taken that step and publicly come out the way they did if they didn't expect it to be in New Orleans.
NBA All-Star Game is something else that was on the docket?
Well, I think that's the carrot at the end of the stick, much the way the NFL uses the Super Bowl. I think that's the carrot at the end of the stick of a long-term lease agreement between the Pelicans and the state of Louisiana. And I think it's a very positive sign, if you're a Pelicans fan, that Jeff Landry, that he had two of his key lieutenants on that trip, that they are probably all in on that. I don't think they would have had that kind of contingent or that representation if they weren't fully on board. Now, they're going to sell this as a downtown economic development. I think that's the best way to get buy-in from the rest of the state, as opposed to just selling a Smoothie King Center renovation. They're making this package larger, this project larger, and I think that's the way it'll get sold. And I think at the end of that, if it gets approved by the state legislature, if Governor Landry signs off, I think we'll see an all-star game in the Smoothie King Center sooner rather than later.
And you also notice state-of-the-art sport and entertainment complex at the Smoothie King Center and the Superdome. What does all that entail, Jeff?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, they're going to basically, that whole area, if you've been to the Dome, Champion Square,
right,
the old New Orleans Center Mall, that Macy's parking garage, all that's kind of been out of use, especially the New Orleans Center. I mean, it used to be a thriving mall, and it's really been out of use. They want to redevelop all that. I think there'll be mixed use. There'll be some, retail. There'll be real estate in there, some, commercial districts. But it's mainly going to be an entertainment kind of tailgate, pregame party area that they want to make. They want to make state of the art and kind of encompass that whole area to where the Dome and the Smoothie King Center become the hub of that Poydras Street corridor. I don't think there's any motivation from anyone to build a new arena on an off-site. I think they want to make that the site. And it wouldn't surprise me if one day even that whole area over near the post office and the rail yard, all that could be a part of that.
Well, it's one of the reasons New Orleans is so attractive is the walkability of downtown. It's not a new thought. Everyone knows it. So the more they can keep attracting people there with amenities like this, the better. JeffDuncanNOLA.com. Get him on Twitter at JeffDuncan_. We always appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. Take care, buddy.
It's our pleasure. That's Jeff Duncan. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, as we always say, together we roar. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, they are synonymous. When you think Our Lady of the Lake, think LSU. When you think LSU, think Our Lady of the Lake. Of course, the Our Lady of the Lake physicians, world-class physicians that care for the LSU student-athletes, not just on the football field, but on the court, the diamond, all of them. And, of course, everyday champions like you and me in our community. Some of the earliest conversations I had with the folks at Our Lady of the Lake when we were starting this partnership, one of the things they impressed upon me is two things primarily that people want when it comes to healthcare: access and convenience. Access and convenience. And Our Lady of the Lake provides that with their state-of-the-art hospitals, their lake after-hours clinics, their subspecialties, cancer, stroke, heart health, pediatrics. They do it all at Our Lady of the Lake. OLOLRMC.com/LSU if you want to learn more about the Championship Health Partnership. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together, we roar. Okay, it's After Further Review. Thanks for hanging out with us here. And we got a lot to get to. If you missed, we opened the show today kind of diving into the drama going on with Damon Williams, the Washington quarterback that wants to go in the portal, presumably to come to LSU. Washington's blocking that attempt right now. We have a full sort of take an explanation of all of that. If you missed it, you can catch it on demand, AFR On Demand, presented by Brett Goff, podcast or YouTube. You can catch all that audio or video there. Another thing that I want to dive into when we come back, and Ross Dellinger got a hats off to Ross. He's done an incredible job with the story, but he got a hold of LSU's offer, a piece of LSU's offer to Brendan Sorsby, of course, picked Texas Tech. And this is interesting because it gives a little bit of an insight, a peek into the window, a peek behind the curtain of how these very lucrative deals are being structured. And I want to dive into that a little bit when we come back. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
DuplessisBuilders.net, DuplessisBuilders.net, DuplessisBuilders.net. Listen, it's January the 7th. You know that. You got a calendar. But we're in winter. I know it's 75 degrees, but we're going to get rain and a cold snap, and it's just what happens. It's hard right now to start thinking about summer or late spring and summertime and pool season, but this is the time to be thinking about it and to call Duplessis Builders if you want to have shovels in the ground in time to get your pool finished to be swimming by summer. Now is the time. DuplessisBuilders.net, DuplessisBuilders.net, DuplessisBuilders.net. Go to the website. They can do anything. And when I say anything, I mean the most extravagant resort-style pool outdoor kitchen you can dream up, or any of their 11 pre-made pool builds that you can buy online right now. DuplessisBuilders.net.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Wilson Alexander has shared details of some of LSU's new staff members' contracts. Get to that in a second. Of course, we always appreciate Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Y'all, it's a new year, new you. You want to look and feel your best. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. I want to remind you, it's not just Goodwood. So if you go to that office on Drusilla, it's 3 businesses. There's Goodwood, which is the men's clinic. There's Unique Physique, which are the GLP-1s. That's semaglutide, tirzepatide. Lowest prices, never any contracts. Do the whole thing over telemed, so you never have to go into an office. They'll ship your medicine anywhere in the country. And then Unique Aesthetics and Wellness is the aesthetics clinic with Botox and laser therapies. And they also have hormone replacement therapy for women as well. So the point is, if in 2026 you're beginning your health and wellness journey, you want to lose weight, feel better, feel your best, a lot of things that I talk about, start there. Yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com, where a simple blood test can let you know if you're a candidate for HRT, which can help you feel your best. They have great peptide therapy as well. Yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. I want to talk about this story that Ross Dellinger has up with some details about Brendan Sorsby's NIL offer, third-party NIL offer from LSU. Wilson Alexander, though, has a few details in terms of some of the LSU new assistant coaches' contracts. Billy Glasscock and LSU, they've agreed on terms to a 3-year, $3 million deal. As Wilson notes, the $1 million per year will make Billy Glasscock among the highest paid general managers in college football. It's a pretty big bump as well from what he was making at Ole Miss. So when I see this, the thing that just shoots to the forefront of my mind is you're talking about an all-in commitment to Lane Kiffin's staff and everything that he wants. It is comical because we had this conversation that became such this viral national lightning rod conversation when the governor talked about the buyout for Brian Kelly and how things were going to be structured differently. Yet here you are. Lane Kiffin's got a $91 million contract. They bumped Charlie Weiss to $2.5 million. He's the highest paid offensive coordinator in the country. They bumped Blake Baker to $3 million to keep him from Tulane. Billy Glasscock, $1 million a year, one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid general manager in college football. Mike Lombardi, let me correct that. Mike Lombardi at North Carolina makes 1.5. So, but they're among the highest paid. So, pretty incredible to see, how all of this is falling into place. And what it tells me is there is just this all-in approach behind Lane Kiffin where they're going to give him whatever he wants. Sterling Lucas, the defensive line coach that they got away from South Carolina, he's going to make $925 in 2026 and then $975 in 2027. So just under $1 million there. Joe Houston, the special teams coordinator, $700,000 a year before incentives. I mean, the point is, you're looking at a staff where every single person that Lane Kiffin wanted, they paid to get. And what it's done is removed any type of excuse. So I know we are accustomed to thinking about a new coach taking over a situation, needing a couple of years to build the roster. Like that's not a thing anymore. It's not the reality anymore. This era allows you to win immediately. If your evaluation is good, you spend money properly placed on your roster to make sure you build the right roster, right culture, and all comes together, you coach it up, you can go win. Indiana is proof of that. The program that when Curt Cignetti arrived, no team had lost more games in the history of major college football than Indiana. Year one, he's in the playoff. Year two, they're ranked number one in the country, and they're the favorite to win the national championship. Like, it can happen like that if you hit on your evaluations. By the way, I got asked this morning on Morning Scone. I'm so glad someone brought it up. Said, well, if Indiana wins the national championship this year, will it blow out the blue chip ratio? And the answer is yes, it will. If you're not familiar with the blue chip ratio and what that is, we talk about it every year when it comes out. But every year since 2011, Bud Elliott, who is a good friend, a really talented guy, and good, great media member. We appreciate, Bud when he comes on the show. But the blue chip ratio is basically an evaluation it's a roster evaluation. And the metric is more than half of your roster, so 50% of your scholarship players have to have been 4 and 5 stars in high school. And all the teams that had a blue chip ratio above 50% since 2011 have all won the national championship. That's sort of the modern era of how they grade recruiting and star ranking and all. So in every year, that metric has held. If Indiana wins the national championship this year, they would blow the blue chip ratio out of the water. So the thing that I always bring up with this, and I brought it up with Bud before, is now Oregon could keep this in play, but Ole Miss and by the way, Oregon, Miami could keep it in play, but Ole Miss or Indiana winning the national championship and the blue chip ratio gets blown up. And the reason is what I've said to Bud when we've had this conversation is they have not figured out how to properly account for transfers. The example I give is A.J. Halsey. There's a great example that we could all understand. Can we all agree A.J. Halsey was awesome this year? He's a first-team all-conference safety. Led LSU in tackles. I mean, dude's a 4-year starter in college. Awesome. Well, in high school, A.J. Halsey was a 3-star. He was like the 2,000th ranked player in the country and went to New Mexico. But he gets to college and developed into a great player, a great college football player. Well, A.J. Halsey made LSU better. But on the blue chip ratio, he counts against you. And that doesn't compute. So, yeah, I think they've got to figure out somehow to incorporate natural. I mean, this is a very obvious statement, right? You have to figure out how to incorporate what transfers mean to your roster. And if you're unable to do that appropriately, then this metric, which has been really telling over the years, is going to get blown up. Now, the other part of it, too, I guess, is we could also look at it and say we're also in the era of a 12-team playoff where you can get in, win, and advance. But Indiana would have been in either way because they were the undefeated number one team in the country at the time of the start of the playoff. So, interesting there. So we'll follow. All right, it's after further review. I have time. I want to jump into. God, I have a lot to do. My goodness. Let me do this really quickly. Because I also want to talk about what Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore had to say. But so just really quickly here, Ross Dellinger's got a piece up. I told you, he's been riding a heater. Ross is doing great work right now. He's got a piece up right now because Ross was able to get a hold of a portion of the third-party NIL offer that LSU made to Brendan Sorsby. And it was $3.5 million. So keep in mind, this was in addition to whatever piece of the rev share that LSU was going to commit to Sorsby. So remember, Texas Tech reportedly has an offer north of $5 million. LSU, $3.5 million through MMR, but through the NILSU Max program. So if this is all confusing, remember, you've got your $20.5 million that every school can spend. And usually 75% of that number goes to football. So roughly $15 million bucks, roughly $15 million allocated for football. Well, it's really hard to build a roster just on that rev share money, because if you've got $15 million and you give $5 million to your quarterback, well, now a third of your money is tied up in one player. Like, how can you appropriately build a roster when you have that much of an allocation on one player? So the task that all these programs have to do is, how can I get true third-party NIL dollars committed to reduce my commitment of rev share so I can spend my rev share elsewhere? So how can you get, and that allows you to spend above the cap, right? So if you've got $15 million in rev share, and then you can get another 10, 15, 20 million, whatever the number is, in third-party NIL deals that you can get through the clearinghouse, that's how you make your rev share money last longer. So this is a great illustration. The fact that LSU, through their NILSU Max program, had sort of guaranteed Brendan Sorsby $3.5 million in endorsement deals, like already in the queue. You wonder why LSU, why Lane Kiffin was fired up about coming here? That's why. Like, that's a great illustration. I mean, this is on paper. And it validates the thing we've been talking about a lot here, because LSU has effectively gone to Playfly Sports and said, go get deals for our players. And you've already got proof that you had a $3.5 million offer on the table in true third-party NIL through your media rights dealer for the quarterback you were targeting. Now, Sorsby didn't take that money, so that means that 3.5 is available for someone else, likely a quarterback. Maybe it's Damon Williams, if that's the way they have to go. But either way, the point is, it's no longer just talk. It's no longer just speculation. Like, this is a contract that was offered to this player where $3.5 million of true third-party NIL deals through the NILSU Max program were offered to Brendan Sorsby. So that money clearly is there for LSU. I think that's really actually very validating, and it's probably why I'm guessing LSU leaked this to Ross Dellinger. It's why they wanted it out there, to show all these people saying, oh, Sorsby got 5.5, whatever it might be, from Cincinnati. Okay. Well, LSU was able to put a true third-party NIL deal on the table in the seven figures for Brendan Sorsby. So all the questions of, do you actually have the money? Like, are you just wink, wink, nod, nod? Yeah, we'll guarantee you these NIL deals. Well, can you actually guarantee those NIL deals? This is suggesting, from LSU's perspective, yes, they can. So now Sorsby didn't take it. He ended up at Texas Tech. But LSU's got money to spend. That's why you're seeing a host of the top players in the portal coming through Baton Rouge. All right, it's After Further Review. Hump Day Show is brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Quick break. When we come back, thanks to Jeff Duncan, was here at the top of the hour. But Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore both met with reporters for the season-ending press conference on Wednesday. A couple of the highlights of what they said, you'll hear it next on AFR.
AFR.
If you're thinking about selling your home, call Darren James, get your home sold. It's that easy. It's a new year. Maybe in the new year, your New Year's resolution is to move into a new home. A lot of times, before you move into that new home, you got to sell your current home. Well, how do you get that home sold faster for more money? You call Darren James. Can't wait for the Wall Street Journal Real Trends list for 2025 to come out, but we told you all throughout 2025, the most recent list, Darren James, number 14 in America. In America, number of homes sold. 1.5 million realtors in the United States of America. And if you line them all up, 1 to 1.5 million, based on the number of homes they sold, Darren James, number 14 on that list. You need to get to a closing table fast, get the most amount of money, you need Darren James. 335-7666, 335-7666, 335-7666, or agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Saints finished the maiden voyage of the Alien Moore Era?
Ellen Moore.
6-10, but my goodness, I'm not sure you could have a more optimistic approach after a 6-10 season, and it's largely because of the emergence of Tyler Shough and the way this team played in the final 6 weeks of the season. And, when Moore met with reporters, Kellen Moore and Mickey Loomis met with reporters on Wednesday, it's not even really a debate, but Moore did confirm it that, in 2026, Shough's the guy.
Yeah, we feel great with Tyler. Tyler's done an awesome job through this entire process. He's gotten a ton better. He's taken advantage of a bunch of opportunities. We're excited to have a full offseason to build. I thought what Spencer did in the season also is worth commending. What he put out there on film, I think, is really good film. He's a really good quarterback. He's a starting caliber quarterback as well. And so I feel like that quarterback room has, the depth and obviously the talent to be really successful.
So the gigantic advantage that you have as well going into this offseason that you haven't had in a while, knowing that you have what you feel like is a franchise quarterback, you hope is a franchise quarterback, maybe more appropriate, small sample size, but like what you see, on a rookie deal, and Derek Carr's retirement gave you cap relief you were not anticipating, meaning for the first time in, I don't know, golly, since dinosaurs roamed the earth, you actually have money to spend. You're not in cap hell. Like, you will have a surplus. You can go into free agency not needing to rework $100 million of deals to have any type of money to spend. You're going into free agency with money to spend. And you have your draft. And Gumsmack and Mick was asked how Shough changes the outlook of the roster in 26.
I don't know that we've determined that. That's part of this postseason process that we're going to go through, evaluating the roster, determining what we need to do in this offseason. Obviously, we feel good about the quarterback position.
Thrilling answer as always, but he did address the advantage of building around a quarterback on a rookie contract.
It's just easier to manage your resources. I don't know if easier is the right word, but you have some leeway to manage resources a little bit. And so, but you still have to make really good decisions. And, I think it's pretty well documented that teams that have a quarterback on a rookie deal have been able to do some things and have some success. And so part of that is just building your roster and managing it over, the 2, 3, 4 year period that you're facing. And, it's just a different equation. It's a different math equation, really.
The building around Tyler Shough is going to be an interesting part of this. And there's sort of multiple layers of roster building. Of course, there's the draft, and there's free agency, and there's also roster retention. So there's a couple of big-time name free agents that we'll keep an eye on. Alontae Taylor is one. Chris Olave and what they do there is probably the biggest. Listen, I've told you my feeling on. I do not believe Chris Olave should be paid like a number one receiver. I do not believe he should set the market. I believe he should be paid like a very good number two, maybe a top number two wide receiver in the NFL. But Loomis was asked where they are on the Olave extension. Olave, by the way, to his own credit, did tell reporters he's especially having Tyler Shough there and the optimism within the offense makes him want a new contract even more.
Well, Chris is obviously an important player to us and had a really good season, but, we haven't even really spent much time thinking about that right now. I mean, we've had a couple conversations with his agent, but, that's part of that'll be, part of this offseason.
What that market will look like for Chris Olave is, I think, going to be maybe the biggest question that they have to answer. Certainly, we're as fans, I think we're all fascinated to see what's going to happen with the veterans. We want to know what happens with DeMario and Cam and Taysom, Alvin Kamara, obviously. But when we're just talking about the roster, salary cap, Olave is going to be the one to watch. And we'll dive deeper into this as the offseason goes along. But when you look at the top, and here's what I mean. You look at the top receiver contracts in the NFL. You look at a guy like Jamar Chase has the highest value contract for a receiver in the NFL at $161 million. So Jamar Jamar's at 161. I don't think there's a soul walking the face of planet Earth that would argue that Chris Olave should top Jamar Chase's contract. So that's where all of this conversation is going to start, is where on this sliding scale of wide receivers does Chris Olave fall? And then there's also the veterans like we talked about with Cam and Taysom and Demario Davis. And then there's a guy like Alvin Kamara. And he'll be 31 by the start of next season. And Kellen Moore was asked a pretty point-blank question. Do you still believe in Alvin Kamara as an option in this offense?
Yeah, I love Alvin. What Alvin's meant to this organization has been awesome. He's come in, he's put in a ton of work. Obviously, these seasons all take different paths, and he's had to navigate an injury. And so, the most important thing for him is just to get healthy and be back to his self. And so, he's done a really good job of leading this group and providing that leadership. And so, excited for him.
The unfortunate part for Kamara is he just hasn't been available. When he's been on the field, at times he has proven viable. The problem for Kamara is, we always say, Mike Detilier's old line, the best ability is availability. Alvin hasn't been available. Alvin Kamara has not played a full season in the NFL since his rookie year. Say that again slowly. Alvin Kamara has not played a full season in the NFL since his rookie year. This season, played 11 games. In 2024, he missed 3 games. In 2023, he missed 4 games. In 2022, he missed 2 games. The point is, it's hard to justify continuing to invest in an aging running back with declining productivity who's not available. And I love Alvin Kamara. He's one of my favorite Saints of all time. What he's meant to this organization, awesome. But the hardest thing sometimes to do is you got to differentiate your emotion, your feeling about a player, and what the player actually is today relative to what it means for your salary cap. So, after a season where Alvin Kamara averaged 3.6 yards a carry, which, by the way, was the lowest of his career. So even in the action when he was on the field, it was his lowest yards per carry of his career. What actually is Alvin Kamara worth to you anymore? These are all the questions that Saints will have to answer in this offseason. But with a young, potential budding superstar quarterback, lots of reason for optimism around the New Orleans Saints. We'll get to more of what Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore had to say as we move throughout the afternoon. We're brought to you by Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, arco.com. Hey, this is industrial Generac generator power when we talk about Arco. ARCCO, arco.com. They signed their lease in Houston not long ago. They'll go as far west as San Antonio to Mobile, up to Dallas, Austin, Little Rock, and they serve so many different industries. Nursing homes, grocery chains, hospitals, hotels, banks, chemical plants, gas stations, universities, governments, municipalities. These are generators built for your business. They like to say at Arco Power Systems, our business is your business. Power goes out, your business can't go offline. What do? You call Arco Power Systems. They can install a Generac standby generator. They can rent you a Generac standby generator for your business, and they work 24/7 during disasters. They're the backbone that supports the region when people are getting through hurricanes. They've had Blackhawks, literally, and National Guard pick up their guys to go service generators and get power where it needs to go. Arco.com, ARCCO, Arco.com. All right, y'all, it is AFR. Mutual do Tigers and the Pros, and we come back to wrap up hour number 2. A lot to get to in hour number 3. Remember, you can email us, tweet us, text us your question in the 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. Lots of ways you get involved in the show. So get your questions in. We'll dive into some of that. We also got to talk about the LSU players who have gone into the portal, landing at new spots. It's all coming up in hour number 3. Don't you move. It's AFR.
AFR.
Man, as we move into a new year, no doubt starting to think about events that you have coming up in 2026. My wife and I actually were sitting down looking at our calendar last night, putting, our family calendar, what events we have coming up, when we'll be out of town, all that stuff. So you're probably starting to do that right now. And if you have an event coming up in 2026 and you're looking for a venue to host that event, make sure you think about the Watermark and the Renaissance. The Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. Allison Crump is the event coordinator for both properties. So if you're thinking of having maybe it's a wedding reception. Maybe it's a fundraiser, an awards banquet. The Louisiana Association of Broadcasters, a couple of years ago, we had our LAB Prestige Award banquet over at Renaissance Baton Rouge. I was at a fundraiser event just about a month ago or so for a great organization. It was right there at Renaissance Baton Rouge. No matter the size or scale of your event, it can host up to 500 people in their grand ballroom. Make sure you remember Watermark and Renaissance Baton Rouge.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
We are wrapping up hour number 2. Make sure you check out Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Peptide therapy as well. I've told you about the success I've had with BPC 157. Great not only for gut health, but also if you got any gut issues, if you have things like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, IBS, it's worth looking into. But also for muscle recovery and repair, it's been incredible for my back pain. Cannot speak highly enough of it. Check it out. Tons of different peptide therapies. YourGoodwood.com, YourGoodwood.com. Bruce Feldman with a report. We're obviously keeping a very close eye on what's going to happen with Damon Williams, the Washington quarterback who announced he's going into the portal. Washington said, oh, no, you're not, because you've already signed a deal with us. The projected landing spot is LSU. Well, Washington is preparing for the possibility of Damon Williams not being their quarterback. And Bruce Feldman is reporting that quarterback Bo Pribula, who entered the transfer portal, is on a visit right now to Washington. Of course, Pribula was at Penn State, left Penn State for Missouri this year, now back in the transfer portal. Missouri signed Austin Simmons from Ole Miss, so now Pribula looking for a new home. He's visiting there at the Pacific Northwest up in Seattle. We'll keep you posted on how all that may transpire. Okay, Muso, Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, things are starting to really heat up around Alex Bregman and his free agency. Where will he land? Of course, I told you yesterday that one MLB source told Jesse Rogers of ESPN that it is likely down to the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Boston Red Sox after the Blue Jays made a third base signing. Jen McCaffrey from The Athletic, she covers the Sox, had a report earlier today that Boston is seemingly satisfied with their offer to Bregman, while Bregman is likely still holding out for a larger sum of money. Buster Only yesterday reported the offer from the Sox is somewhere in the range of 6 years, $171.5 million. We'll see how that market continues to fluctuate and where Bregman might end up. NBA action. Naz Reid.
Should have stayed.
25 minutes off the bench last night for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Does he have any eligibility left? He might be able to help.
He doesn't. Well, actually, no, he forfeited all that by going pro.
Doesn't matter. I've seen it before. It didn't come back.
Maybe. 14 points for him in those 25 minutes. Shot 50% from the floor. Maybe get him the ball a little bit more, Minnesota. Added 6 boards and a couple assists just for good measure. A cool plus 21 for Naz last night in a big win for Minnesota. NBA action to look forward to tonight. Cam Thomas, he has returned for the Brooklyn Nets. They host the Orlando Magic. And a little LSU on LSU. Tari Eason and the Rockets, they travel up to Portland. He'll face Duop Reith and Trailblazers. That's Tigers and the Pros.
Presented by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. You know, January, February, this is such a busy time for First South Farm Credit because if you're a hunter, you know what I'm about to say. This is the time of the year that as hunting season ends, so many people who have been leasing hunting property are like, man, that stinks. I want my own land. So this is the time of year when that really happens. And for whatever reason, you know, you're on someone else's property, you don't want to shoot the big buck, you just don't like other people being out there, whatever. But if you're in that frame of mind, this is the time to call my friends at First South Farm Credit, because if you want to buy your land, the 10 acres to 1,000 acres, they can help you over at First South Farm Credit. You know, a lot of people who buy land already own land, so maybe you want to use that equity for your new property. You can do it, and First South Farm Credit has the know-how, because since 1916, that's the only thing they've done for more than 100 years. I mean, coming up on 120 years. Wow. No, 110 years, sorry. It's amazing. 110 years. Whew. They've done one thing. They help Louisianians buy land. FirstSouthland.com, FirstSouthland.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit, FirstSouthland.com. Oh, y'all, it is after further review. LSU men's basketball team did lose last night. I had it on. Everyone's look. I can't say I was locked in every minute of it. The interest is almost nil right now. Tigers got down 30 in the first half. They rallied, made it close in the second half. So are you more disappointed in the deficit, more encouraged by the rally? It's just a mess. They're 0-2 in conference play. It feels like a repeat of a year ago. It's not very good, and that program feels like there's just a ticking clock right now. I just don't know if and when we ever get to the point where people care enough to put the investment to be great in basketball, because it's certainly not there now. Anyway, they'll try again somewhere down the line, and maybe we'll talk about it, which is the most defeatist attitude. I just don't know what else to tell you. Just not enough people care. All right, Sports Center's coming up. Then hour number 3. Don't you move. It's AFR.
After further review.
Rouses.com. Why am I giving you the website, Rouses.com? Because if you go to Rouses.com, you can ship your king cake anywhere in the world. Well, actually, anywhere in the continental U.S. You want to send a king cake to a family member, a coworker that lives out of state, a friend that moved to a different state. You want to give them a little piece of carnival. Rouses.com. Right there on the homepage, you'll see the big king cake banner. Just click it. You can ship your king cake anywhere. If you're plain Jane cinnamon like me, or you want any of the cool exotic fillings with the dozens of different options that they have, go to Rouses.com. They can ship your king cake anywhere in the continental U.S. So go to the website, different sizes, fillings, flavors, all that sort of stuff at Rouses, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. It's carnival time. It's king cake time. Make sure you get to Rouses.com and ship that king cake. Rouses, this feels like home.